The Calvari were a peaceful race. They had lived among the stars for 300 years without fighting a single war. Their tall bodies were made of crystal that shined in different colors, blue, purple, green. They believed that every problem could be solved by talking. Violence was something they read about in old history books, not something they practiced. Commander Veller stood on the bridge of his ship, the luminous dawn. He watched the screen in front of him. Another planet was burning. The Thraxians had attacked again. Velar's hands shook as he tried to send another message to the enemy. He had sent hundreds of messages. The Thraxians never replied. They just kept destroying everything. The Thraxians were nothing like the Calvari. They were big, brutal creatures who loved war. They had 4 eyes and thick armor on their skin. They traveled from system to system, taking what they wanted and killing anyone who got in their way. They had been attacking Calvari worlds for 6 months now. 15 planets had fallen. Millions of innocent people were dead. Velar closed his eyes. He could still hear the screams from the last planet. The Thraxians did not just conquer. They enjoyed causing pain. They hunted civilians for sport. They burned cities just to watch them burn, and the Calvari had no idea how to stop them. The Union Council met in an emergency session. Counselor Mara looked tired. Her crystal body had lost its shine. She stood before the other council members and told them the truth they did not want to hear. 15 worlds lost. 3 million dead. The Thraxian fleet grows stronger every day. Our defense ships cannot match their firepower. Our people do not know how to fight. If we do not find help soon, our entire civilization will be destroyed. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone knew she was right. The Calvari had built their society on peace. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no military training. Against an enemy that lived for war, they were helpless. We need allies, Mara said. We need warriors. People who understand combat and can teach us how to defend ourselves. The council members looked at each other nervously. They had contacted other civilizations for help. Some were too far away. Some were too weak. Some were already conquered by the Thraxians. Some simply refused to get involved. A young analyst named Cairo raised his hand. He was new to the council, barely 50 years old. He had been searching through the Galactic database for days, looking for anyone who might help them. I found something, Cairo said quietly. A species that might be able to help. They are called humans. The council members pulled up the information on their screens. Earth, a small blue planet in a distant system. The humans had only achieved faster than light travel 20 years ago. They were young compared to most spacefaring civilizations, but their history was different from anything the Calvari had seen before. The humans had been fighting wars for their entire existence, thousands of years of constant conflict. Wars over land, resources, religion, and ideas. They had nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times with nuclear weapons. Their military record showed incredible violence, world wars that killed millions, weapons that could level entire cities in seconds, tactics and strategies that had been refined over centuries of bloodshed. The humans knew war in a way that the Calvari could never understand, but the records also showed something else. After their last great war, the humans had finally united. They formed a single world government. They banned weapons of mass destruction. They focused on space exploration and helping each other. For the past 50 years, Earth had been at peace. So they know how to fight, one council member said. But will they help us? And can we trust them? Cairo pulled up more data. According to their broadcasts and communications, humans have a strong sense of justice. They tell stories about heroes who protect the weak. They have laws about helping those in danger. Their culture values courage and standing up against bullies. Counselor Mara studied the information carefully. She looked at images of human soldiers, their weapons, their ships. They looked so different from the Calvari. Soft skin instead of crystal, hair on their heads, small compared to most species. But their eyes showed determination, strength, the kind of strength that comes from surviving countless wars. They are our best option, Mara decided. Send them a distress call. Tell them we need help against an aggressive enemy. Offer them whatever they want. Technology, resources, territory. Just pray they respond. Cairo composed the message carefully. He explained the situation. The Thraxian attacks, the millions dead, the planets burning. He asked for military assistance. He promised friendship and alliance with the Calvari Union. He offered to share advanced technology that the humans did not have yet. The message was sent across space, traveling at faster than light speeds toward the human homeworld. The cavalry expected a small response, maybe a squadron of ships, perhaps some military advisors who could teach them basic tactics, maybe a few hundred soldiers. They had no way of knowing what was really coming. The cavalry did not understand humans. They did not know that humans had a saying. When someone is in trouble, you do not send the minimum, you send everything. They did not know that humans had another saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And humans hated doing nothing when innocent people were suffering. The message reached Earth 3 days later. It was received by military command and immediately forwarded to the highest levels of government. Within hours, every important person on Earth knew about the cavalry and their desperate situation. Commander Valar waited on his ship, watching another cavalry world burn on his screen. He wondered if the humans would respond. He wondered if they would help. He wondered if his people would survive long enough to see that help arrive. He had no idea that the humans were already preparing to move. That ships were being loaded with weapons. That soldiers were saying goodbye to their families. That the largest military force humanity had ever assembled was getting ready to jump across the galaxy. The cavalry had asked for backup. They were about to learn what that word really meant to humans. Admiral Benjamin Carter was 60 years old and had seen more war than any person should. His face showed the lines of hard decisions. His gray hair was cut short in military fashion. He had fought in 3 major conflicts during his career. He helped unite the warring nations of Earth into one government. Now he commanded the United Earth Defense Fleet. Carter was reviewing training exercises near Jupiter when the alien message arrived. His communications officer handed him a tablet with a confused look on her face. "Sir, we just received a transmission from outside our system. It is from an alien civilization. They are asking for help." Carter read the message twice. The Cavalry Union, a peaceful species being invaded by someone called the Thraxians. 15 worlds destroyed, millions dead. They were asking for military assistance. They needed warriors. He called his senior staff to the briefing room. Captain Lisa Monroe was his second in command. She was 45 years old and one of the smartest tactical minds in the fleet. She pulled up everything Earth knew about the cavalry, which was not much. "They are described as peaceful," Monroe said. "They have never been in a war. They do not have weapons or soldiers. According to their own message, they are being slaughtered." Carter sat back in his chair. An entire civilization was dying. They had reached out across space for help. They had found humans. Now Earth had to decide what to do. The message went straight to Earth Central. President Hoffman called an emergency meeting with his military advisors. General Patricia Hayes presented the situation. She showed satellite images the cavalry had sent. "Burning cities, dead civilians, destroyed ships. This is genocide," Hayes said flatly. "The Thraxians are not just conquering, they are exterminating. If we do nothing, the cavalry will be extinct within a year." The room was silent. Everyone could see the images. Everyone knew what was happening. But this was not Earth's fight. The cavalry were on the other side of the galaxy. Getting involved could be dangerous. President Hoffman looked at Admiral Carter through the video link. "Admiral, what is your assessment?" Carter stood up straight. "Mr. President, we spent most of human history fighting each other. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We learned from that. We learned that the strong have a duty to protect the weak, that when someone asks for help, you help them, not because it benefits you, but because it is the right thing to do." "How many ships can we send?" Hoffman asked. Carter took a deep breath. "Sir, with respect, this is not a police action. An entire species is facing extinction. If we are going to do this, we need to do it properly. We need to send everything we have. Everything." The president repeated slowly. "Every ship we can launch," Carter said firmly. "Every soldier we can spare. We show the Thraxians that genocide has consequences. We show the galaxy that humanity stands with the innocent. We send a message that will be heard across every star system. When you attack the defenseless, humans will come, and they will come in force." The president looked around the room. His advisors were nodding. Some looked worried, but no one disagreed. Hoffman made his decision. "Do it, send the fleet. Bring those people home alive." The orders went out within the hour. Every available warship in the Earth Defense Fleet received mobilization codes. Carriers, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, support vessels. Even the older ships from the Unification Wars were pulled out of storage and loaded with weapons. Captain Jake Morgan was on medical leave recovering from a training injury. He got the call at 2 in the morning. Report to the carrier UES Valiant immediately. Maximum speed. This is not a drill. Commander Nicole Bennett was teaching at the Naval Academy. She was explaining battle tactics to young cadets when her phone rang. She looked at the message and her face went pale. She told her students that class was over. She had a war to fight. Lieutenant Chris Sullivan had just gotten married 3 days ago. He was on his honeymoon when the message arrived. His wife understood. She had married a soldier. She kissed him goodbye and told him to come back alive. All across Earth, the same scene repeated. Soldiers saying goodbye to families. Engineers checking weapons systems. Doctors loading medical supplies. Everyone knew this was different. This was not a training exercise. This was real. The assembly point was Sector 7 just past Pluto. Ships began arriving within hours. First came the destroyers, fast and deadly. Then the cruisers loaded with missiles and railguns. The battleships arrived next. Massive vessels covered in armor and cannons. Finally came the carriers, each one holding hundreds of fighter craft. Captain Monroe watched the fleet gather from the bridge of the UES Defiance. She had been counting ships. Her final count made her pause. Sir, we have 347 warships ready to jump, 15 carrier groups, 40,000 Marines and dropships. Total crew complement is over 200,000. Carter looked out at the assembled fleet. It was the most powerful military force humanity had ever put together. More ships than fought in the Unification Wars, more firepower than had ever been assembled in one place. And they were doing it for people they had never met, for a species they knew nothing about. Because it was right. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. Today we do something no human fleet has ever done. We go to war for others. Not for territory, not for resources, but because innocent people are dying and they asked for our help. The Thraxians think they can commit genocide without consequences. We are going to teach them they are wrong. We are going to show the galaxy what humans stand for. Justice, honor, protection of the innocent. All ships, prepare to jump on my command. Throughout the fleet, crews rushed to their stations. Pilots climbed into cockpits. Gunners loaded cannons. Marines checked their armor and weapons. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Engineers made sure every system was working perfectly. Captain Monroe ran final checks on the navigation systems. The jump would take them halfway across the galaxy. It would take 3 days at maximum faster than light speed. 3 days to reach Calvary space. 3 days for the Thraxians to keep killing. Admiral Carter looked at the tactical display one more time. 347 ships. The pride of humanity. Going to save strangers. All ships report ready, Monroe said quietly. Carter took a breath. Then let us go save a civilization. All ships jump. The fleet vanished in a flash of light. 347 warships jumping through space at impossible speeds, racing toward a battle that would change the galaxy forever. The Calvary had asked for backup. The humans were bringing a war fleet. The Calvary sensors began showing strange readings 3 days after they sent their message to Earth. Commander Valar was on the bridge of the luminous dawn when the alarms went off. His sensor officer started calling out numbers that made no sense. Sir, I am detecting multiple objects entering our space. They are moving at incredible speeds. I count over 300 contacts. All military configuration. Valar felt his crystal heart sink. The Thraxians were bringing more ships. They were going to finish the job. He opened communications to warn the other Calvary vessels, but then the sensor officer spoke again and his voice was shaking. Sir, these are not Thraxian ships. The signatures do not match. These vessels are unknown. Wait, I am getting identification codes. They are human ships. Valar stared at his officer. That could not be right. They had asked the humans for help 3 days ago. No civilization could respond that quickly. And certainly not with over 300 ships. Confirm those numbers, Valar ordered. The sensor officer checked again. Confirmed, Commander. 347 vessels. All human military ships. They are entering our space now. Their weapons are active. They are battle-ready. Counselor Mara was called to the flagship within minutes. She arrived still glowing with sleep. Valar showed her the sensor readings. She looked at the screen in shock. We asked for help. They sent an invasion force. Maybe they misunderstood our message, Valar suggested. Maybe they think we are the enemy. Mira shook her head. We need to contact them. Find out what they want. A transmission came through before they could send their own message. The face of a human appeared on the screen. He had short gray hair and hard eyes. He wore a military uniform. When he spoke, his voice was calm and professional. Calvary Union, this is Admiral Benjamin Carter of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call. We are here to provide military assistance. Please transmit the current location of the Thraxian forces. Velar and Mara looked at each other. The human did not sound aggressive. He sounded like someone ready to help, but the number of ships was overwhelming. Mara took a breath and responded. Admiral Carter, we are grateful that you received our message. However, we requested military assistance, not a full-scale invasion force. We expected perhaps a squadron of ships or some advisors. There was a pause. Then Carter spoke again, and Mara could hear confusion in his voice. Counselor, you sent us a distress call. You said your people are being invaded. You said millions are dead and more are dying every day. What exactly did you expect us to send? Mara felt something shift in her understanding. We hoped for a small military force, perhaps 100 ships at most. We did not expect your entire fleet. Another pause. This time when Carter spoke, his voice was different. Softer, but somehow more intense. Ma'am, where we come from, when someone calls for help, you do not send the minimum. You send everything you have. Now please transmit those coordinates. We have a civilization to save. Mara felt her crystal body warm with an emotion she did not quite understand. These humans had crossed the galaxy with their entire military because the Calvari asked for help. Not for payment. Not for territory. Just because it was needed. She transmitted all the tactical data the Calvary had. The Thraxian fleet was currently attacking the colony world of Tarev. 300 Thraxian warships surrounded the planet. They were bombarding the surface. The Calvari defense fleet had tried to stop them, but lost 30 ships and retreated. Admiral Carter studied the data with his command staff. Captain Lisa Monroe highlighted the enemy formation on the tactical display. They are grouped very close around the planet. No scouts on the edges. No defensive perimeter. They are confident. Commander Ryan Phillips, the fleet tactical officer, nodded. According to the Calvari data, no one has ever counterattacked the Thraxians. They have been winning every battle for months. They do not expect resistance. Carter looked at the tactical map. The Thraxians outnumbered the human fleet slightly. But Carter had something the Thraxians had never faced. Coordinated tactics, trained soldiers, and a reason to fight that went beyond conquest. He began issuing orders. All ships move to Battle Formation Alpha. Battleship groups to the front. Destroyers on the flanks. Carriers behind the main line. Begin launching all fighter craft. Marines prepare drop pods for planetary assault. We jump directly into the combat zone. Right on top of them. The orders spread through the fleet like electricity. Every ship moved into position. Weapon systems came online. Shields activated. Fighter pilots ran to their craft. Captain Jake Morgan walked through the hangar bay of the carrier UES Valiant. His pilots were doing final checks on their interceptors. Lieutenant Amy Foster was young, only 25. This would be her first real combat. She looked nervous. "How are you feeling, Lieutenant?" Morgan asked. "Honestly, sir, I am terrified. I have trained for years, but this is different. This is real." Morgan put a hand on her shoulder. "Good. Fear keeps you alive. It makes you sharp. Remember your training. Trust your wingman. Watch each other's backs. And come home." Foster nodded. Her hands stopped shaking. She climbed into her cockpit with determination in her eyes. Throughout the fleet, veterans talked to rookies. Engineers made last-minute adjustments. Doctors organized their medical bays. Everyone knew what was coming. This would not be an easy fight, but it was a fight worth having. On the Calvari flagship, Counselor Mara watched the human fleet organize itself. She had never seen military coordination like this. Every ship knew its place. Every crew knew its job. They moved like a single living thing instead of hundreds of separate vessels. "Commander," Velar said quietly, "I think we underestimated humans." Mara nodded. "I think the Thraxians are about to make the same mistake." Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. His flagship. His command. Around him, 346 other ships waited for his order. Behind him, Commander Velar and Counselor Mara watched through a communication link. The Calvary were about to see what humans could do. Carter looked at Captain Monroe. All ships report ready. All ships ready, Admiral. Weapons hot. Fighters launching. Marines standing by. We are good to go. Carter took one last look at the tactical display. 300 Thraxian ships. They were killing innocent people right now. They thought no one would stop them. They were wrong. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. Today we show the galaxy what humanity stands for. We protect the innocent. We stop bullies. We do not let genocide happen on our watch. All ships jump on my mark. He counted down slowly. 3, 2, 1, jump. The human fleet vanished from Calvari space. One moment they were there. The next moment they were gone. They reappeared seconds later in the Tarev system, right behind the Thraxian fleet. Every weapon armed, every fighter launching. The largest war fleet humanity had ever assembled. The Thraxians had no idea what was about to happen to them. Commander Zrek of the Thraxian horde was reviewing the latest casualty reports when the alarm started screaming. His 4 eyes looked up from the screen in confusion. The bridge of his flagship was suddenly filled with panic. His sensor officer was screeching in alarm. Unknown ships detected. Multiple contacts. They appeared right behind us. I count over 300 vessels. All armed, all military grade. Zrek felt his blood heat up with battle rage. This was impossible. No one counterattacked the Thraxian horde. For months they had been conquering the Calvary without any resistance. The Crystal people ran away. They did not fight back. They certainly did not call for help. All ships to defensive positions, Zrek ordered. Identify those vessels immediately. Before his sensors could give him an answer, an incoming transmission appeared on his screen. A strange alien face looked back at him. It had soft skin and short gray fur on top of its head. The creature looked weak, small, harmless, but its eyes were hard as stone. Thraxian vessels. This is Admiral Benjamin Carter of the United Earth Fleet. You are engaged in an illegal war of aggression against a peaceful species. Power down your weapons immediately and prepare to be boarded. You have 60 seconds to comply or we will open fire. Zrek felt rage building in his chest. This tiny creature dared to threaten him. The Thraxian horde had conquered 40 worlds. They had destroyed entire civilizations. They bowed to no one, especially not to some unknown species that looked like prey animals. Human, Zrek snarled into the communication channel. You have made a fatal mistake. We are the Thraxian horde. We do not surrender. We do not negotiate. We do not run. You will die like everyone else who stood against us. The human's face did not change. His expression stayed calm and cold. Then you have chosen poorly. All ships weapons free. Show them what happens when you murder innocent people. The human fleet opened fire. Zrek had never seen anything like it. The enemy ships moved together like a school of fish. Coordinated, precise. Deadly. They did not swarm like the Thraxians did. They fought like a single mind controlling hundreds of bodies. The human battleships fired first. Their weapons were devastating. Railguns that punched through Thraxian armor like it was paper. Missiles that tracked their targets even through evasive maneuvers. Energy beams that cut ships in half. The Thraxian fleet tried to respond. They had more ships. They had bigger guns. But they fought as individuals. Each captain made their own decisions. Each ship moved independently. Against the coordinated human attack, it was chaos. Human destroyers swept through the Thraxian formations like knives. They were fast and accurate. They targeted engines and weapons systems. They disabled ships instead of destroying them when possible. But when Thraxians kept fighting, the destroyers showed no mercy. Then the human fighters launched. Hundreds of small craft poured out of the carriers. They moved in perfect formations. Lieutenant Amy Foster flew her interceptor through the battle with her wingman Lieutenant Danny Cruz beside her. The Thraxian fighters were bigger and more heavily armed. But they were slow. They were designed for bombing planets, not dogfighting. Against human interceptors built for speed and maneuverability, they stood no chance. Danny, I have 2 on my tail. Amy called over the radio. I see them. Break left on 3. 1, 2, 3. They split apart in opposite directions. The Thraxian fighters tried to follow both of them and ended up colliding with each other. Amy and Danny reformed and continued hunting through the battle space. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Carter watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Thraxians were in complete chaos. They had no training for this kind of combat. No doctrine, No coordination. They were losing badly. Sir, the planet's surface, Captain Monroe said. The Thraxians have ground forces down there. They are attacking civilians. Carter nodded grimly. Launch the marine drop pods. Get our people on the ground. Priority 1 is civilian protection and evacuation. From the carriers, thousands of drop pods launched toward the planet. Commander Nicole Bennett led the first wave. 5,000 Marines in armored pods falling through the atmosphere like meteors. Her squad included Sergeant Kevin Hayes, Corporal Laura Price, and Private Tony Garcia. All good soldiers. All ready to fight. Bennett spoke over the company channel as they dropped. Listen up, Marines. Thraxian ground forces are hunting civilians on this planet. Our mission is simple. Find the civilians. Protect them. Get them to safety. Anyone shooting at civilians dies. Anyone shooting at us dies. Anyone who surrenders gets secured. Rules of engagement are clear. Questions? No questions, ma'am, came the reply from dozens of voices. The drop pods hit the surface of Tarev in the capital city. The Calvari civilians were hiding in buildings. The Thraxian soldiers were pulling them out and killing them for sport. The Crystal people could not fight back. They had no weapons, no training. They were helpless. Then the human Marines arrived. The Thraxians were bigger than humans, stronger, more heavily armored, but they had never fought someone who understood tactics, who worked as a team, who knew how to fight. Sergeant Kevin Hayes led his squad through a residential sector. They found a group of Thraxian soldiers dragging Calvari families from their homes. The Thraxians were laughing. They thought this was fun. Contact front, Hayes said calmly into his radio. Engage. The firefight lasted 15 seconds. The Thraxians were tough, but they were not prepared for combat armor and precision weapons. They were used to hunting unarmed prey. Against trained Marines, they died quickly. Hayes' squad secured the Calvari civilians and moved to the next sector. The same scene repeated across the city. Human Marines moved through the streets in coordinated teams. They cleared buildings. They rescued civilians. They eliminated Thraxian soldiers with brutal efficiency. The aliens learned a harsh lesson. Humans were very good at war. In orbit, the space battle reached its end. The Thraxian fleet was broken. Half their ships were destroyed. The rest were damaged and trying to retreat. Commander Zrek sat on his burning bridge and watched his fleet die around him. Admiral Carter gave the order that would echo across the galaxy. Do not let them escape. Any ship trying to jump gets targeted first. They wanted this war. They are going to finish it. The human fleet pursued without mercy. Every Thraxian ship that tried to run was destroyed. Every ship that tried to fight was destroyed. There was no escape. No forgiveness. Just justice. Zrek's flagship was crippled. His crew was dead or dying. He sent one final transmission to the human admiral. His voice was weak. What are you? What kind of species does this? Admiral Carter's reply was ice cold. We are humans. We are the species you should never have made an enemy of. We do not abandon our friends. And we do not forgive genocide. The last Thraxian ship exploded in a ball of fire and plasma. The battle was over. 300 Thraxian warships destroyed. The human fleet had lost 47 fighters, 2 destroyers, and 800 brave souls. But they had won. On the planet's surface, Commander Bennett helped a young Calvari child onto an evacuation transport. The child was small, its crystal body glowing pale blue. It looked up at Bennett with wide eyes full of wonder and fear. You saved us, the child whispered. Bennett smiled behind her helmet. That is what we do, kid. That is what humans do. Counselor Mara stood in what used to be the Capitol building of Tarev. The walls were cracked. Smoke still rose from damaged sections. But human Marines were everywhere, helping with repairs and rescue operations. She watched them work with a mixture of awe and confusion. Commander Valar approached her. His crystal body reflected the emergency lights. The humans have already begun repairing our orbital defense platforms. They sent medical teams to every settlement on the planet. They are feeding the refugees. They are treating our wounded. They are doing all of this without us asking. Mara nodded slowly. We offered them payment, technology, resources, territory. Admiral Carter refused everything. He said they did not want payment for doing the right thing. What do they want then? Valar asked. Mara did not have an answer. No species in the galaxy helped others without expecting something in return. It was not how things worked. But the humans seemed different. They seemed to actually mean what they said. She requested a meeting with Admiral Carter. They met aboard the human flagship, the UES Defiance. The ship still smelled like battle, burned metal and explosives, but the crew moved efficiently, already making repairs. Admiral Carter stood when Mara entered the conference room. Captain Lisa Monroe and several other officers stood with him. The humans were smaller than Calvari, but Mara had seen what they could do. Size meant nothing compared to skill and courage. "Counselor Mara," Carter said respectfully. He gestured to a chair that had been specially made for her larger crystal body. "Thank you for coming." Mara sat carefully. "Admiral, my people owe you a debt we can never repay. You crossed the galaxy with your entire fleet because we asked for help. You fought a war for strangers. Your people died protecting ours. What do you want in return?" Carter exchanged glances with his officers. Captain Monroe spoke first. Her voice was gentle but firm. "Ma'am, we do not want anything. You asked for help, we helped. That is all." Mara struggled to understand. "But the cost? The resources you spent? The lives you lost? 800 of your people died saving mine. There must be something you want." Carter leaned forward. His weathered face was serious. "Counselor, let me tell you about humanity. For thousands of years, we fought each other. Wars over everything. Land, resources, religion, ideas. We nearly destroyed our planet multiple times. We killed millions of our own people in senseless conflicts." He paused and looked at his hands. "We learned the hard way that strength without responsibility is just tyranny, that the strong have a duty to protect the weak. That when someone asks for help, you give it, not because it benefits you, not because you expect payment, but because it is the right thing to do." Captain Monroe added her own thoughts. "We also learned that the best way to prevent future wars is to make real friends. The kind of friends who stand together, who support each other, who know they can count on each other when things get bad." Mara felt something shift in her understanding of these strange creatures. "You want an alliance?" Carter shook his head slightly. "We want friendship first. If that leads to an alliance, wonderful. If it leads to trade agreements, great. If it just means we check in on each other sometimes and help when needed, that is fine too. We are not here to conquer or colonize. We are here because you needed us." "Simple as that." "And the Thraxians?" Mara asked. "What happens if they come back?" Carter's expression hardened. His eyes became cold. "We are tracking the survivors. We sent a message to their home world. The war is over. If they attack you again, they attack us, and next time we will not offer them the chance to surrender. The galaxy needs to understand that genocide has consequences." Over the following weeks, the human fleet stayed in Calvari space. They helped rebuild the damaged worlds. Engineers repaired infrastructure. Doctors treated the wounded and traumatized. Marines trained Calvari volunteers in basic self-defense and tactics. Captain Jake Morgan found himself teaching naval tactics to young Calvari officers. They were eager students. They asked hundreds of questions. They wanted to learn everything about military strategy and coordination. Morgan was patient with them. He remembered being a young officer once. Commander Nicole Bennett ran training exercises with Calvari ground forces. Sergeant Kevin Hayes demonstrated small unit tactics. Corporal Laura Price taught hand-to-hand combat. The Calvari were not natural fighters, but they learned. They adapted. The transformation spread through the Calvari Union. They remained peaceful at heart. But now they understood that peace sometimes required the ability to defend it, that being unable to fight made you a target, that strength and kindness could exist together. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. 300 worlds sent diplomatic messages to Earth. Everyone wanted to know more about these humans who fought for strangers. Some were afraid. Some were impressed. All of them were curious. Admiral Carter held one final meeting with the Calvari Council before the human fleet departed. Counselor Mara presented him with a crystal sculpture. It was beautiful, glowing with inner light. She explained it was the highest symbol of friendship in Calvari culture. "Admiral, humanity has given us more than victory. You gave us hope. You showed us that there are good people in this galaxy, species who value life over conquest, who fight for others instead of themselves." Carter accepted the sculpture carefully. "You have shown us something too, Counselor. You showed us that there are civilizations worth protecting. Good people who need defending. We will not forget that. If you ever need us again, you call. We will come. What will you do now?" Mara asked. Carter smiled. "We go home, we train. We improve. We prepare. Because now the galaxy knows we exist, and some of them will test us. But we will be ready, and our friends will be safe. The human fleet departed Calvari space in formation. They left behind repaired defense platforms, trained soldiers, and a reputation that would echo through the stars. They had arrived as strangers. They left as legends. On Earth, President Hoffman addressed the world. Humanity has announced itself to the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as merchants, but as defenders. We stand ready to help those who cannot help themselves. This is who we are. This is who we will always be. The speech was broadcast across human space. In military bases, soldiers stood a little taller. In schools, children learned about the Calvary and the importance of protecting others. Earth had found its purpose among the stars. 6 months after the Battle of Tarev, the Calvari Union formally joined the Terran Alliance. It was humanity's first alien ally. The friendship that began with a desperate distress call had grown into the foundation of something bigger. A coalition of worlds dedicated to protecting each other. But the story did not end there. Other species heard about what happened at Tarev. Oppressed people across the galaxy started sending distress calls to Earth. Pirates attacking trade routes, slavers raiding colonies, warlords threatening innocents. Every message had the same plea: help us, and every time the response was the same. The humans came, not with diplomats and negotiations, but with warships and marines, with unshakable determination, with the clear message that evil actions had consequences. The galaxy learned a new rule very quickly. Do not touch humanity's friends. Do not hurt the innocent when humans are watching, because they will come, and when they arrive in force. The Calvary had asked for backup. The humans had arrived with a war fleet, and they would do it again and again and again, because that was what humanity did. That was what friends do. 3 years after the Battle of Tarev, Counselor Mara visited Earth for the first time. Her crystal body reflected the sunlight as she stood in the War Memorial in Geneva. The memorial was a simple black wall with names carved into it. 800 names. 800 humans who died saving her people. Admiral Benjamin Carter stood beside her. He was retired now, living quietly after 40 years of military service. But he came to the memorial often, to remember, to honor the fallen. We named our new capital city after your world, Mara said softly. New Earth City. Every Calvary child learns about what you did for us, about how you came when we called, how you saved us when we had no hope left. Carter ran his fingers along the names on the wall. Each one was a person, a life. Someone with family and friends and dreams. And we built this so we never forget why we fight. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for people like you. For the innocent who need protecting. Mara was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been on her mind since the day they met. Do you regret it, the cost? 800 lives for a species you had never met. Carter turned to look at her. His old eyes were clear and certain. Never. Not for 1 second. You asked for help. We gave you everything we had. That is what friends do. That is what being human means. As they stood in silence, a message arrived at Earth Central Command. Another distress call from a distant system. Another species facing destruction. Another plea for help. The message was urgent, desperate, familiar. The alert went out across Earth's military network. Admiral Lisa Monroe, who had taken over command of the fleet after Carter retired, read the message carefully. A species called the Verendi were being attacked by slavers. Their colonies were being raided. Their people were being taken and sold across the black markets. Monroe called her staff together. The Verendi had heard about what humans did for the Calvari. They were asking for the same help. They offered payment, technology, anything Earth wanted, but Monroe knew none of that mattered. They needed help. That was enough. The mobilization orders went out within an hour. Not as big as the Calvari operation. This was a smaller threat, but still 2 carrier groups launched. 50 warships, 5,000 Marines, more than enough to stop a group of slavers. Captain Jake Morgan, promoted to admiral after the Battle of Tarev, led the fleet. Beside him was Commander Amy Foster, now a decorated fighter squadron leader. She had survived her first battle and many more since. Danny Cruz served as her second in command. The fleet jumped to the Verendi system and found the slaver ships attacking a mining colony. The slavers had old military vessels, poorly maintained, crewed by criminals and mercenaries. They were used to raiding defenseless targets. They were not used to fighting a real military. The battle lasted 20 minutes. The slaver fleet was destroyed. The Verendi colonies were freed. The grateful aliens asked what they owed Earth. Admiral Morgan told them the same thing Carter had told the Calvari. Nothing. You asked for help. We helped. The Verendi joined the Terran Alliance a month later. They were the 7th species to join. The alliance was growing. More importantly, the reputation of humanity was spreading. Across the galaxy, people were learning that humans kept their promises, that they protected their friends, that they could be trusted. But not everyone was happy about this. The Krellian Empire had been the dominant military power in the galaxy for 2 centuries. They ruled through fear and intimidation. They did not like that humans were challenging their authority. They did not like that smaller species now had someone to call for help. The Krellian ambassador came to Earth to deliver a message. He was tall and covered in dark scales. His eyes were cold. He met with President Hoffman in Geneva. The message was simple. Humans should stay in their own space, stop interfering in galactic affairs, mind their own business. President Hoffman listened politely. Then he responded with equal simplicity. When innocent people are being hurt, it is our business. When civilizations are being destroyed, it is our business. We will not sit by and watch genocide happen. If that bothers you, then perhaps you should reconsider your own policies. The Krellian ambassador left angry. He promised there would be consequences. Hoffman did not care. Earth had made its choice. They would stand with the weak against the strong. They would protect those who needed protection, no matter who objected. Back at the memorial in Geneva, Counselor Mira and Admiral Carter watched the sunset together. She asked him another question. Are you afraid? The Krellian Empire is powerful. They might come for Earth. Carter smiled a little. But fear has never stopped us from doing what is right. If the Krellians want to fight, they will get one. But I think they are smart enough to avoid that. They have seen what happens when someone threatens our friends. Mira nodded. She understood now. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the most advanced. But they had something more important. They had principles. They had courage. They had the willingness to fight for others even when it cost them dearly. That night, Earth received 3 more distress calls. 3 more species asking for help against various threats. The military command reviewed each one. They would respond to all 3. They would send ships, marines, whatever was needed, because that was what humanity did now. They were no longer just fighting among themselves. They had found a purpose greater than their own survival. They were the defenders, the protectors, the ones who came when called. In schools across Earth, children learned a new history, not just about the wars humans fought against each other, but about the wars they fought for others. The teachers told them about the Calvari, about the Verendi, about all the species that Earth had helped. One teacher asked her class a question. Why do we help them? We do not know these aliens. They cannot really help us. Why do we risk our lives for strangers? A young girl raised her hand. Because if we do not help them, who will? Because being strong means nothing if you do not use that strength to protect others. Because that is what makes us human. The teacher smiled. The girl understood. All of Earth's children were learning the same lesson. That strength without compassion is tyranny. The power without responsibility is useless. That the strong have a duty to protect the weak. Admiral Carter watched the news that evening from his home. Another fleet was launching. Another distress call being answered. Another species being saved. He felt proud, not of the battles won or enemies defeated, but of what humanity had become. They had been warriors for all of their history, fighting, killing, destroying. But now they were something more. They were guardians, heroes to species across the galaxy, the ones who came when all hope seemed lost. The Calvari had asked for backup 3 years ago. They expected a few ships, maybe some advisors. Instead, humanity sent everything. An entire war fleet. 200,000 people willing to fight and die for strangers. That decision changed everything. It showed the galaxy what humans valued, what they stood for, what they would fight to protect. And it started a chain reaction that was still spreading. Every species that humans helped told others. Every battle they won spread the message further. Do not give up hope. Do not accept tyranny. Because somewhere out there, humans are listening. And when you call for help, they will come. They will not come with diplomats or negotiators. They will come with warships and soldiers. with determination and courage, with the absolute certainty that protecting the innocent is worth any cost. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not advanced technology or vast resources, but the simple promise that evil would be opposed, that genocide would be stopped, that the weak would be protected, and they would keep that promise, again and again, for as long as there were people who needed help, for as long as there was injustice to fight, for as long as humanity existed among the stars. Because when someone asks for backup, humans do not send the minimum, they send everything.